Project management is full of timeless sayings, some helpful, some overused, and some that even make you want to roll your eyes. And in this video, I'm breaking down 10 of the most classic project management sayings and sharing what I really think about them. Do they hold up in the real world? Are they useful for modern projects? Or are they nothing more than corporate jargon? Whether you're a new project manager or you've been doing this for years, I think you'll appreciate my practical take on the 10 project management sayings we've all heard 1,000 times. And make sure you stick around to the end where I talk about the sayings that drive me the most nuts. And it probably does for you too. Okay, so let's dive in. Saying number 1, but it's just a small change. Oh boy. If you're a project manager, you know the feeling you get in your gut when someone says this, like an internal alarm that starts blaring. Am I right? Because let's be honest, there is no such thing as just a small change, not until you properly evaluate it. Even a change that seems minor can have ripple effects on scope, budget, time, resources, dependencies, stakeholder expectations. Oh, it's like a tugging one thread on a sweater. It might unravel more than you think. That's why change control is your friend on every project, not to slow things down, but to keep the project on track to get to the finish line on time. When changes are assessed, documented, approved, and tracked, you can adjust with confidence instead of chaos. And here's where new project managers sometimes get tripped up. They wait way too long to introduce a change control process. Don't make that mistake. Even before the first change request comes in, get clear on your project scope and make sure it is documented, approved, and shared. Then introduce your change control form early. Walk all of your stakeholders through it during kickoff. Let them know that any requested change, big or small, needs to go through that process. When people understand that there's structure from the start, you'll deal with far less pushback later on. This one phrase, it's just a small change, has derailed countless projects. But if you've done the groundwork up front, you will be ready to say, hey, thanks for your request. Let's run it through our change control process and take a look at where it will impact things, and then we can go from there. You'll be surprised how many requests for small changes just seem to disappear when someone has to fill out a form that makes their request official. Before we dive into the next saying, I got a quick heads up. Have you checked out my latest webinar? If you've ever found yourself in the project management maze, I'm letting you know this is your guide to make sure you set things up right from the get-go. Check out the free training in the link below. It is your key to project success. Saying number 2, scope creep is inevitable. Oh, no, I don't agree that scope creep is inevitable. Not if you're doing your job, that is. Okay, now let me explain. Yes, scope change is inevitable because in the real world of business and projects, priorities shift, stakeholders have new ideas, and business needs evolve. But scope creep? Well, no, that's something entirely different. Scope creep is unmanaged change. It's what happens when we skip steps in the project management process and say yes without asking the right questions. It's what happens when things aren't set up properly or when we don't stick with the systems we've put in place. This saying, unfortunately, gets thrown around a lot, but honestly, I think it kind of normalizes bad habits. It sends a message that projects are destined to veer off course, but that's not exactly true. When you're crystal clear on project scope and priorities, you build a solid, flexible, and controlled process for dealing with change requests. You can accommodate changes without chaos. Now let's talk about what that looks like in practice, because I am all about what is practical. I structured my entire SLAY project management program around the practical information you need to manage projects well. And yes, project management theory is a good baseline. But where I see projects go sideways is when project managers don't have practical information they need to deal with real-world situations. So let's talk about practical ways to avoid scope creep. The first thing is you have to start off with clear, signed-off scope statement, because vague scope equals vague outcomes. So get specific, write it down, and get agreement before kickoff. Number 2 is introduce your change control process early. Don't wait until the first tiny request. Show stakeholders how change requests will be handled, how they'll get evaluated, documented, and approved or declined. The third thing you want to do is use a priority matrix. When scope change requests are made, refer back to what was agreed upon. What's fixed, like a budget or timeline? What's flexible? This is such a great practical tool because it helps you have productive, neutral conversations about trade-offs. Bottom line, when you run projects with structure, change doesn't have to lead to scope creep. Don't let the saying, scope creep is inevitable, becoming an excuse for skipping steps. Instead, show your team what controlled, transparent change really looks like. Saying number 3, fast, cheap, or good, pick 2. Yes, the project management triangle reimagined as a catchphrase. Fast, cheap, and good equates to time, scope, and budget. My take on fast, cheap, or good, pick 2 is that I would never say this because you need to have all 3 in your project. They're all important. What's key is we have to negotiate their level of importance. The problem is when senior executives want all 3 to be the top priority, problems come into play. That's why your priority matrix needs to come in early. Early in the project, you want to sit down with your sponsor or steering committee and define which of the 3 constraints, scope, time, or budget, is fixed and which ones have some flexibility. Then get it in writing, okay? That part is so important because when scope of your project begins to creep or deadlines don't fall in line, your priority matrix becomes your North Star. I've used the priority matrix as a visual anchor during kickoffs, risk reviews, and I use it especially when dealing with change requests. It reminds everyone about what they've agreed to and makes it way easier to say, sure, we can do that, but here's what has to shift. So yes, this saying is catchy, but it would be detrimental to your project and your career if you spout this off to a senior executive. Instead, set the priorities, communicate them clearly, document them, and get sign-off. And don't be afraid to pull that document to remind everyone what's been agreed on when things start being pulled in all directions. Saying number 4, let's circle back. Yes, the corporate equivalent of, I don't want to deal with this right now. Now, to be fair, sometimes that can be a valid response where we put in a pin in something or we put it in the parking lot, right? Put it away for the time being. Sometimes we do need space to think, check facts, or gather input before making a decision. And I get that not everything can or should be decided on in the moment in our projects. But and this is a big but, the problem is this phrase gets used all the time as a polite way to dodge a tough topic, or worse yet, to bury it entirely. It becomes code for let's ignore this until it becomes a full-blown crisis. As a project manager, part of your job is to protect your project from delays that come from indecision. So when you hear let's circle back, don't let that be the end of the conversation. How do you do that? With one simple word: when. It might be a little abrupt to say it just that way, but you get the idea. In practice, it may sound more like you asking, great, should I add this to the check-in next Thursday? Or do you want me to block 15 minutes in our calendar so we can revisit this tomorrow morning? Or is this something I should escalate now, or should we give it a week? And if you're the one saying, let's circle back, that's okay. Just don't leave it vague. Set a date, a reminder, and make sure someone owns the follow-up. Even better, capture it in your meeting notes or put it in your WBS and assign it to an owner and a deadline. Whatever you need to do so it does not get lost in the shuffle. Because let's circle back without a follow-up plan isn't deferring, it's stalling. And stall decisions create bottlenecks, delays, and confusion for your team, all of which you want to avoid at all costs. Saying number 5, project management is not a popularity contest. Truer words were never spoken. Project management is about leading people, not pleasing them. And that means sometimes you'll have to make tough calls, deliver hard messages, or more importantly, hold people accountable even when it's uncomfortable. What does that mean in practice? Well, if you're doing a good job, well, there are going to be moments when someone's unhappy with you or with a decision you've made. Maybe a stakeholder doesn't like that you've asked them to fill out a change request form, or that you've reminded them gently of the project priorities they agreed to. Or maybe a team member doesn't love that you've called them out on a missed deadline that were assigned weeks ago. Either way, that doesn't mean you're failing. It means you're leading. The truth is, you need to develop a bit of a thick skin as a project manager. You need to be okay when people are unhappy with you. Now, that doesn't mean you bulldoze your way through people or act like you're above feedback, because it's still your job to listen, collaborate, and show respect. But your focus has to stay on delivering the project, not protecting your popularity. I know, sometimes it's easier said than done, because we all have feelings after all. Now, here are a few things that can help when tensions flare and people are peeved at you. The first one is stick to the facts when you're communicating about contentious things on your project. Ground your decision in data, plans, and what's already been agreed to. Number 2 is over-communicate your why. Even if they don't love the outcome of the decision, people are much more likely to get on board if they understand the reasoning behind it. 3, now this is important, be consistent. Because if you bend the rules for one person, that's the exception you've created for others. And then you put the whole project at risk. The big picture, keep in mind that your role isn't to keep everyone smiling. It's to guide the team towards a successful outcome. And trust me, nothing earns long-term respect like a project manager who does what's right, not what makes them more popular. Saying number 6, projects always take longer than you think. Okay, this one's funny because it's often true, but that doesn't mean you should just shrug and accept it. If your projects always run long, it's not just bad luck. It's a sign your estimation process needs some work. Yes, I know there's going to be unknowns and surprises will always happen. But if your timeline is based on the best case scenario, you're setting yourself and your team up to fail before you even get started. To keep your project from taking longer than expected, you want to stop forecasting your project timelines based on optimistic guesses. So what do you do instead? Again, let's talk about some practical steps. Number 1 is add buffer time where it actually counts, especially on tasks that sit on critical paths. The tasks that, if delayed, will delay the entire project. So instead of padding every task, focus on contingency of high-risk activities where even a small slip could create a ripple effect. Now, on that note, you always want to make sure that you, number 2, plan for risk by building risk planning into your schedule development, not as an afterthought. Identify high probability, high impact risks early and develop mitigation strategies that include time-based contingencies. That way, if something does go wrong or sideways, you won't be left scrambling. Another one is you want to use past data by digging into similar projects that have already happened in your organization or in your own history as a project manager. So you can understand what actually took longer than expected in the past and then use that to build your current timeline. And for the 4th one and final one, you want to review your after action reviews. That is why we do them. They are a gold mine for spotting where timelines slipped in the past and why. They help you see whether estimates were too aggressive or if approvals lagged or what resource bottlenecks caused delays. The key is to learn from it so you don't repeat it. Planning isn't about predicting the future perfectly. It's about preparing for what's likely and giving yourself space to adapt when things don't go exactly to plan. When you use history and risk management to guide you, well, your project timelines will actually stay on track. Saying number 7, underpromise and overdeliver. This one sounds noble and it definitely has its place. But if you live by it all the time, it can backfire. Because here's the thing, consistently underpromising can make it seem like you don't fully understand your project. If your estimates are always padded and you're constantly surprising stakeholders with early wins, they may start to question whether you truly understand scope and effort involved, or if you're intentionally holding back to make the outcome look better than expected. And over-delivering all the time, well, that can end up setting up a dangerous precedent, one where people start expecting miracles from you. And then suddenly, what you've done a few times to go above and beyond, well, it becomes a new baseline. And trust me, that's like a fast track to burnout for you and your team. So what should you do instead? Well, you want to focus on setting clear and realistic expectations from the start so that everyone understands what's being delivered, when, and by whom. That removes the guesswork. It builds trust with stakeholders and it gives you a solid foundation to managing risks and change without scrambling. Here's what that looks like in practice. You want to be honest. Base your estimates on actual data from your subject matter experts. You also want to be clear. Communicate scope, timing, and constraints early and get sign off on them. As well, be consistent. Deliver what you said you would, when you said you would, and that becomes your credibility. And of course, if you find that you can deliver early or squeeze in a bonus win without blowing up your team's workload, sure, do it. Just make sure those moments are intentional and that they're not the expectation. Because using clear expectations are your secret weapon as a project manager. Set them early, communicate them often, and don't be afraid to revisit them as the project evolves. Saying number 8, failing to plan is planning to fail. Oh, this is a classic, and honestly, this one is 100% true. But I like to take it one step further. Because failing to plan properly is also planning to fail. I've seen plenty of projects that technically had a plan, a 100-page Word document, a 47-tab spreadsheet, or a Gantt chart so detailed it wallpapered a boardroom. But the problem was that none of it was useful, either because it lacked clarity, or the team wasn't bought in, or because no one actually looked at the plan after the kickoff meeting. It's not the size of the plan that matters. It's how well it sets the project and your team up for success. The best projects plans don't try to predict the future perfectly right down to the minute. They create a shared understanding of what we're doing, why it matters, and how we'll get there together. They're structured, they're realistic, and reviewed regularly, not created once and then buried in a shared drive somewhere. And here's what proper planning looks like. Number one, a clear charter that gets sponsor sign off before anything else. Number two, a WBS that breaks deliverables into manageable chunks. Excuse me. Number three, roles, responsibilities, and timelines that are actually reviewed by the team. And four, documented assumptions and risks that get revisited often rather than being outlined at the start and then forgotten. And if you're using a framework like my SLAY project management program, all of this is built right in, step by step, so you're not guessing what should come next or wasting time recreating documents from scratch. So yes, the quote is right. You do need a plan, but more importantly, you need a plan that's dynamic, practical, and aligned with reality. Your goal isn't just to check off the planning box, it's to give your team a plan that gives them the clarity and confidence to deliver. Saying number 9, meetings where minutes are taken and hours are wasted. Unfortunately, this one is sometimes painfully true. Not my meetings, of course, right? Ha ha ha. But seriously, we've all been in those meetings that should have been an email, or worse, meetings where no decisions are made. Oh, I hate those. No one knows why they're there. And everyone leaves more confused than when they joined. That is a waste of time and energy, especially on a fast-moving project. But here's the thing, meetings themselves are not the problem. It's poorly run meetings that are. The good news is, as a project manager, you have the power to make meetings focused, useful, and even enjoyable. Done right, your teams won't be repeating this catchphrase. They'll be thanking you for keeping things on point. Here are some ways to ensure your meetings aren't time wasters. Number 1, start with purpose. Why are you calling the meeting? If you can't answer that in one sentence, do not send the invite. Number 2 is create a clear agenda and share it ahead of time. Let people know what to expect, what to prepare, and how they'll contribute. Now here's a quick note. I actually made a video on how to create a weekly meeting agenda for your project team. To check it out, go to my YouTube channel. In the search bar, type in Adriana Girdler meeting agenda. Now, number 3 is stick to time and stay on track. Be the person who respects everyone's schedule by starting and ending on time. Number 4 is capture actions and assign owners. If there are no outcomes or next steps, was it really a meeting or just a group complaint section? Number 5 is you want to take minutes in real time, clean them up, and send them out right after the meeting. Don't fall into the I'll do it later trap. You won't have the time, and those notes lose value the longer they sit in your drafts. Minutes only matter if you use them. Otherwise, you're just adding to the time you've already spent without driving anything forward. Number 6, and if you're dealing with standing meetings that no longer serve a purpose, please cancel them or consolidate them. Your team will thank you. The best meetings solve problems, align people, and drive momentum. Anything else is just a calendar block begging to be deleted. Saying number 10. And now, guys, we've come to the saying that drives me nuts the most. That's not my job. Ugh, I hate this one. It's a momentum killer, a collaboration killer, and honestly, a morale killer too. On projects, things move fast, overlap constantly, and don't fall into neat little buckets, and we all end up wearing multiple hats. If everyone clings tightly to their job description, problems slip through the cracks. Now, let's be clear. I am not saying everyone should be doing everything. People do have roles for a reason, and burnout is real. But there's a difference between protecting your workload and refusing to be helpful. When someone says, that's not my job, and leaves it at that, it sends the message that they're not invested in the outcome unless it benefits them directly. That's a mindset that tanks project morale. And as a project manager, your job isn't to personally solve every issue, but it's your job to make sure every issue has a path to resolution. And if a team member flags a problem, That's not an interruption, it's an opportunity. Help them navigate it, even if it's outside your official lane. That builds trust and that builds team strength. I always say people power projects, and that the best project environments are the ones where people pitch in, step up, and stay solution focused even when the task isn't written in black and white under their name. If something falls outside your scope, acknowledge it, but don't ignore it. Redirect it, escalate it, find the right person to help, because what helps the project helps the whole team. And that is your job. Don't forget to save your seat for my free project management training, where you will learn 5 key elements to mastering projects that will help you achieve a project success rate going forward. I'll place the link for you down below. Some of these sayings are timeless and others need a serious update. But what they all remind us is that project management isn't just about tools and templates. It's about how we think, how we communicate, and how we lead. If you like this, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and drop a comment. Tell me which saying you loved and which one drives you crazy. And if you want to take your project leadership skills to the next level, whether you're managing small initiatives or massive corporate programs, check out the link below to learn more about the SLAY project management framework. See you in the next video.